Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Kings of Cold podcast. My name is Brad Gates. I am your host. I'm a C38 refrigeration contractor, the founder of Cold King Mechanical. Today, I'm excited to introduce our guest. He's a friend of mine, a former coworker. He's been in the trade for over 30 years. He's a generational technician. He is a founder, CEO, and a powerhouse in the industry. Steve is also a visionary, and he's looking forward to changing the game every day with what he does in refrigeration. He is the CEO of Chiller Services, a refrigerant recovery and reclamation business, and the founder of Amelina Technologies, an AHRI certified oil and refrigerant testing laboratory. Welcome to the show today, Mr. Steve Harrill.
Thank you. That was a nice introduction. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you for being here. We're excited to have you on the show, and we just want to hear a little bit about your story. How did you get into refrigeration in the first place?
Well, that's going to be going back in time. I remember getting in the truck, going with my dad, my grandfather, probably to get me out of the house, out of my mom's hair. And I was scraping gaskets as a kid. I think the first compressor I ever got onto was a 16 cylinder Cyclops. And very few people probably know what that is, and they'd have to look it up maybe. But so I was scraping gaskets, and I was thinking to myself, I didn't want to do this when I was older. That my dad always worked too many hours, and that was it. So I just didn't want to do it. And turns out I went the other direction, and I do it just as much. So I got into it probably about 6, 7 years old, probably around that era. And we had a little cold storage plant on our property growing up that my grandfather took care of. So I go poking around out there. We leased it out to some people, and every time it break down, then I would go out and check things out with my grandfather. After that, my dad was a contractor also. He had quality air out of Turlock, California. He had a bunch of guys working for him. He did heating, air conditioning, plumbing, sheet metal. And so I was there. When I wasn't at school, I was in the shop out there. It was on the property. We had some acres out there in Turlock. So we had their big shop there, and everybody was out there all the time. We had our sheet metal shop and our parts house, and everything was all on the property. Pretty interesting.
Wow, that's incredible. A cold storage facility right on the property is something you don't hear very often people say, that's for sure. When was your first real job working in the trade? Did they hire you later on as you got older?
So let's see. I actually would help my dad out. I just helped him out. I wasn't really a employee at the time, but I would go with him, or I would end up learning from him, or starting to put, like, say, some cold storage stuff together, maybe some walk-in boxes. I skipped over HVAC and went to, the commercial light industrial stuff at first. And we had some accounts in San Francisco I would drive over to from Turlock on a weekly basis. So we go over there and service in San Lorenzo and San Francisco. So I was going over there, and I got my feet wet with that, doing piping, even odd jobs, painting the pipes down in the basements and things. That's where we put them in. And just really got going there. And after that, I just, we worked together for probably, 8 years or so. And then, as a lot of people end up doing, they butt heads with their fathers or people that they're working with, family wise.
Right.
And then once you realize that you can't seem to work together at that point in your life, then you go out and you do something else. And so I ended up taking a job for a small contractor in Sacramento, California at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, they were doing Safeways they were helping Husband build out Safeways. And so then I got the idea that I thought that was pretty cool. And I always knew that the Husband, that was it. Those guys doing that out there, those were professional guys. They had it going on. I had a friend offer me a deal with his dad that they were a Thermo King. They had 2 locations at Thermo King, and they were direct dealers, from the factory. So I went over there. They offered me a job in a truck, going and doing reefers, just servicing the reefers out of the back end of a box truck with a big lift gate, and they had a pretty cool setup. So I went and worked for them for a while, checking that out. That was cool. I learned a lot. Cool, no pun intended, but I learned a lot from those guys. Then they sent me to training in Minneapolis, Minnesota. There was a job on the wall there for industrial refrigeration. So I ended up at Husband. I was a foreman over there for a short period of time. Then they had a special projects division. I went to work over there for those guys doing anhydrous ammonia. They dumped a lot of training into me, probably a whole year. I was on the road training, different, even sensitivity training, everything in between. I went to the Garden City ammonia program, went to Train was purchased by Ingersoll Rand in like 2008, 9-ish, somewhere in that area. Then I my shirt changed over to Train, and we started getting training. I started getting training from, the guys at Train, the engineers that are at Train are just amazing, and they answer their phone all the time. They're very hands-on with the equipment that they build. And so I did a lot of training back in Minneapolis, Minnesota with those guys. I had just a great experience out there. I was able to go to the control panel shop over there and learn exactly how the factory does it. So it looks perfect. That's an art, basically, what those guys are doing at the factory. So I got to go do a lot of cool stuff. And it was because I wasn't married, I didn't have any kids, and I had all the time on my hands, and I was relentless for the knowledge, and I just wanted to be really good at it.
Yeah, sounds like you really dove yourself into the trade and really dug in there and was willing to learn everything you can, which is one of the things that I think makes an excellent technician, and probably one of the traits that got you to where you're at today, I would think.
Yeah, the guys that I worked around were just work ethic was on point. You know, you just have that feeling, that respect for them when you're there. That you're just doing the right thing when nobody's looking, just because that's just how it is. You know what I mean? There's just the level of professionalism that those guys, that definitely ingrained some work ethic into me for
I
sure.
love that. I love that. That's a great story. So you went from Hussman to Train, and you were learning all the factory stuff.
I ended up going to Southern California on a startup, and I was there doing some retention stuff and for Ingersoll Rand, and I
Uh-huh.
met some people from Southern California, and I ended up going from Ingersoll Rand to where we met.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, that's where we were coworkers at, and I think we know who somebody is that we're talking about. He's a good friend of both of ours, but, yeah, no, that's a good time, and then after that, you did, so then you went from Ingersoll Rand doing the Ingersoll Rand/Train, doing the factory stuff, and then you went over to an industrial company to be a refrigeration technician, is that correct?
Yeah, well, I was a technician over at Ingersoll too. I was doing that in Harrill for like, I don't know, 10 years, 8 years.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so I was over there doing everything from putting the pipes in underground on freezers to when freeze the floor to doing the startups. And once I got into the startups, and that was where I wanted to be. It was fun for me to do the startups and work with all the trades and everybody working on top of each other. Right back to the husband days with the grocery stores. With they give you a grocery store. Let's say you're going to change out all the freezer section, and they give it to you at 8 o'clock at night. It's got to be running by 8 in the morning because they're going to start stocking it. You know what I mean? So you got all the trades, plumbers, everybody working on top of each other, getting along, and it's controlled chaos, but it's pretty cool, and it's fulfilling it the next day when you knock it out. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool. So I always like that. So the startup gig was where I felt comfortable.
So you got in there and handled it. I was the polar opposite. I avoided startups and I avoided construction like the plague. I was just busy technicianing, and I just wanted to do service work because that was always stressful as fuck for me to have like everybody piled on top of each other. You're waiting for the electrician, the plumber's like, get the fuck out of my way, and you got all these dudes that are pissed off at the same time. And in hindsight, I kick myself in the ass for that because I really wish I would have learned those installation and construction tips and tricks a lot more, because now with my job I'll do a walk-in box or something like that, and I'm kind of playing catch up learning those things. So I wish I would have definitely focused a lot more on the construction side. So I'm bet that served you well through your career of having that construction backbone
Yeah.
behind you and the willingness to do that.
Well, and actually, what comes from my dad was going into a place. It doesn't really matter how big, what kind of money's behind it, who's there, nothing like that. It's a matter of, we're going to go in there, we're going to get it done. He instilled some confidence and some things that is really hard to instill in kids or people in general, really. And so I'm pretty sure that watching him from a little guy, getting in the car, going with them, getting in the truck, going with them, that's a big deal. I didn't go to school for it. Also, I got a lot of training in the back end and continued education and things like that, and all the hours that I did with the different factory stuff. But I didn't know what I was going to do. I had ADHD as a kid, and so I was all over the place, anyways. So I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't think I could retain things and all kinds of stuff. There were some hurdles, and turns out that that's all BS is what I figured out. And once you decide to learn and you dig in and you start to embrace it, you just have to surround yourself with people that understand it and or figure out a good way that it's going to work out for you personally. And I did, and I harnessed it, and I still struggle with the ADHD stuff. I struggle to shut it off is what I do now because I just enjoy what I do, and I'm at the point where there's really not many curveballs. It's just kind of something new, maybe with the newer stuff, and it's fun to learn, because to stay up on it. But like I said, I didn't go to school for it, so there's an avenue for people out there to think if you think that you're got some hurdles in the way. I'll tell you, yeah, just go ahead and get a hold of me at some point. I'll tell you about some hurdles, and there's nothing stands in your way. It's just a matter of doing it for yourself, and there's nobody else going to do it but you.
Yeah, I love that. I also have ADHD, the same, and it's been a problem for me. And I didn't even really know what the hell ADHD was. I just thought I was a spaz. And then I grew up a little older and realized that you can actually turn this thing into a superpower if you play your cards right. So I understand where you're going with that. If you put yourself to the learning curve and put your ass to the fire, you can make yourself something. And this trade definitely expands and grows that for people like us who maybe thought, what the fuck am I going to do? And I definitely owe the trade a lot from what I've learned and in giving me a shot, but you got to be willing to work and grind on it for sure.
Well, and think about that. You're in a different place all the time, right? That's perfect. for ADHD.
Yeah.
You're dealing with all kinds of things. You're dealing with stressful stuff. You knock it out, you're fulfilled. You feel like you accomplished something. And then on
Yep.
top of it, you got to come learning. I mean, you gotta understand. Most people are starting on their education, getting into their profession early. It took us a little while to settle in and figure out what it is we wanted to do and allow ourselves to be successful. Right? Really,
Yeah, for sure. For
that
sure.
might be
That's
a
for
whole
sure.
separate talk someday. That might need to be brought out. Is the guys that my guess is there's hundreds of thousands of guys out there that just shelf themselves basically mentally, thinking that this is
Yep.
as good as it's going to get, and that's not true.
Yeah, yeah, and that is, you're right about that, and that's an excellent point, and that probably is a whole show by itself. But I definitely want to bring that point to light on our show as well. Just say, hey, if you want to do it, you can find a way. And certain things like maybe all the trades, but our trade specifically, refrigeration. You and I have talked about it before, and we'll talk about it in a few with your business. But the future's not even here yet with refrigeration. They're still trying to figure out what's next, and there's so much room to grow. And it doesn't really matter if you're kind of the computer nerd guy or the knuckle dragger. The trade is so expansive and there's so much room for growth in the future of this trade that anybody can really get in here and make a good living for themselves at this point.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm involved with a few different areas of the trade now that I never thought I would ever be involved in, and I didn't think that there was a need for me in certain areas, and I went on to now that I did chiller service in 2018-ish, and what it was there
Yeah.
was I was working for another company. I decided to try to do my own thing, and I tried to do my own thing without taking any accounts and with doing it kind of classy. You know what I mean? Like it's really hard for a guy that's been in the service industry forever to leave a job and not have take a customer because how are you going to survive? Right? You're just going to start from scratch, and it's tough. And so I was trying to focus on what it is I wanted to do. I tried Harrill Mechanical. That was kind of babysitting for that period of time. I did not like the level of workmanship and just what I was able to find out there for techs and the guys I was working with. So I did one project that was seed money for me to purchase chiller service. Funny story, I needed to do some temporary cooling on a chiller, and I needed some cylinders, recovery cylinders. I didn't even know what recovery cylinders were at the time. I never used them. Trucks would pull up on the job site. We'd throw 20, 30,000 pounds of refrigerant in, truck would leave, right? So I never
Yep.
really had to do too much small stuff, maybe a jug here and there, and that's about it. Other than that, I never really had any recovery stuff. So I look it up on OfferUp, I think it was, and I find and one of my guys, he found it, he found the cylinders. I said, yeah, go get the cylinders. Well, he was late one time to meet the person. The next time the person couldn't do it. So finally I went myself. I show up there and I had this vibe like, what's going on, man? I'm not here to steal your cocker kind of thing. And it was just a weird vibe. And so longer story short, talking to the guys there on site, I ended up meeting the owner. And he tells me that after talking for a while, gets a little comfortable, about 15, 20 minutes. He says, you might be able to buy the gas side of the business. I go, what do you mean the gas side of the business? And so we started talking, uh, and even longer story short, I ended up getting into a situation where I went out, checked out what they were doing, and I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. So I took what I got from Chiller Services that was originally their Chiller Service Refrigerants Recovery Reclamation is the actual name, and I took what they had and turned it into I don't know how many times bigger because we got three locations next to each other here now, three different shops. I got like you said, the lab inside of another one that grew out of necessity, and I'll get to that in a second. But the growth part of Chiller Services was really it was intense because I had me and my wife. She was actually in RN school at one point. She didn't finish school, and thank God because I needed her. It's the husband wife thing that you always hear about at small businesses. And we literally started with a little bit of equipment on one wall of our shop, our 4,000 square foot shop. And we got it's all pallet racking everywhere. We got another 4,000 square foot next door. We opened up the wall and we got a full processing area over there for reclaiming the gases that we get in from the contractors or that we recover ourselves from the chillers. We got rentals, the bulk rentals. We got small cylinder rentals. Our recovery equipment is the biggest there is out there and it's fastest. And we just got a great thing going on, and all this stuff was built. All the first shop, every single nut and bolt put together, while every pallet racking was for me myself, and with me and a forklift. And my wife learned; she didn't know how to do all the front end of the business. She's been learning along the way. She's been learning from people that we either hire or services we hire, and so now
Yeah.
she's killing it up there. She does all the quotes. It's a true entrepreneur situation struggle. We made it through COVID during when there was no money coming in. We learned how to just deal with things head on there, go talk to people instead of turning your back or not answering your phone. Many things like that. There was a turning point one time where I was looking for one of the other shops here and I got a visit from the owner's representative saying, how could you ask for another one if you guys can't afford to pay for the one you're in? Now, red
Oh,
faced I was like, my wife was ready to go home. She was like, I'm going to go to my mom's type of thing. I go, maybe you better, I'm going to stay here. And what I did, I looked up the owners online and I sent out emails. I got emails right back. Said, "Hey, this is COVID. We're businessmen. We get it. Don't worry about the rent right now, but don't forget about us." That was a turning point. That was the biggest lesson that I ever had in business, was to hit that head on. So when we did that, we had that win with those guys. I was like, you know what? Forget all this stress. We're going to focus on our infrastructure. We're going to get good. We're going to come out of COVID stronger than we went into it. And that's what we did. We utilized that time. Every one of our cylinders were immaculate, painted, and everything. I studied the different ways to do different things that we were doing, thought it through, did a lot of research and work on getting better. And we came out better. We ended up with 200 stores that we got our gas into right after COVID. We had no room on our credit cards for anything at the end of COVID, and we were able to go debt free like a year out of COVID. And
Wow.
I was just relentless about it. And I don't ever forget about that talk that that lady told me. If I can't afford the one I'm in, how could I afford another one? That's the drive, right? That's my reason why, even when I was sick, to get up and say, "Nah, I refuse to lose."
Yeah, sometimes you just need somebody to piss you off and get you going again for sure. And yeah, your wife's definitely a badass, and happy birthday to her.
Yeah, Janelle.
Yeah, Janelle Harrell, that's right. The real boss over there. I know personally that she's busted her ass and really come a long way, and is a major contribution to you getting to where you're at today. And watching you guys work together is a really cool thing, and I enjoy seeing it. So good for you. How's the company doing today as far as the changes in the refrigerant policies and stuff like that? I know that with a lot of stuff being outlawed, but all the reclaimed stuff is still good. That's probably a huge advantage for your business.
Yeah. Yeah. So reclaimers were kind of treated like, oh, that gas, that dirty. I remember working for the factory, and it said right in the startup books, if you use reclaimed gas, it voids the warranty. You were not allowed to use
Mhm.
any reclaimed gas. Well, guess what? In a couple of years, they're going to be mandated to use 85% reclaimed gas. So that was kind of my deal with the lab too, because I got to send out my gas to get tested, make sure it's on point. So we would be sending out like 25 samples a day if that was the case, at $200 each. If you go to one of
Right.
the parts houses and get their kit, it's $200 to get that kit. So I was like, okay, well, let's not just test our own. Let's test our competition. Let's do a state of the art. Let's do a really nice lab. What's that going to cost? Well, I mean, yeah, it costs, but and it wasn't an easy thing to do. I'll tell you that, because you got to jump through a lot of hoops. So we got some PhD guys working here, and we got some lab analysts that are working here. Phenomenal brains, man. These guys are awesome. And we had to really build an entire the library that we built with all of the new gases that are out. You have to program in all of the impurities that could be part of that. Otherwise, it can't recognize them. We got a mass spectrometer coupled with it's a GCMS is what we use over there. And that's just, there's nothing's going to hide from that as long as you program it right. Right. So then we
Okay.
use a cryo attachment where it gets the gases super cold, because you can see things in them that you couldn't normally. We use that attachment on with everything that comes through here, because I want to know a layout of what's going on out in the streets and what people are mixing by accident or on purpose. I want a good visual of what's going on out there, because that helps me plot the future. Right. And we, as far as the gases, what's going on now, we're a Comores distributor. So not only did we get in the parts house, and we were selling R22 as fast as I could get it, and I was paying crazy money for recovered R22. I was paying as much as $23 a pound for recovered gas, and
Wow.
well, I just wanted to supply everybody with it, and I wanted to be the source, and it worked out good for us. Then moving forward, I became a distributor for Comores. We work side by side with them. I love them. They've been great to us. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff in the future. I just signed the only license in the United States to be able to process 448, 449. That's with Honeywell's permission, because they're 448, 449 is Comores, and that's with them directly and indirectly with Honeywell. But regardless, we'll be getting that gas to them so they could get it to the manufacturers for the mandate that's coming up. So we have the only license to do that right now. So that's a big deal for
Wow.
us business. Yeah.
That's incredible, and good for you for putting the work on the line and positioning yourself in there. And I love hearing about the vertical integration where you're like, hey, if I need to use a laboratory all the time, I might as well have my own. I know personally some of the guys that work for you, and you're just sitting there talking to them, and your mind's blown, like, what the fuck, because they're so smart and they know what they're doing on a level that, I mean, even me as a 20-year tradesman, I'm like, I don't know what the hell these guys are talking about, because it's like a different language sometimes. You're just like, what the fuck are you saying, dude? But
Yeah.
they're a good team of folks over there, and they do a great job. It's pretty incredible to see the growth.
I walk through here sometimes at night listening for leaks. That's kind of a little thing that a business owner is going to do, because I got to think, I don't know, there's probably 100 half tons over here on the 1,000-pound cylinders that are on the floor over here that are full of gas waiting there in line to go onto a machine. And
Mhm.
get all the oil dropped out, the contaminants dropped out. If there's any other stuff in there, they drop them out, and then they condense it back into a liquid for me. It vaporizes it, drops everything out, and then condenses it back into a liquid. and then we move it on to finished goods once it's finished and gets all the moisture out. But in the meantime, there's all these half tons over there, and at any given time, if something's leaking, there you go.
Yeah.
So I walk by there in the evenings, and sometimes I'll stop and I'll be like, I'll just look around and I'll be like, man, what good job, dude. You know what I mean? That's as far as I'll do it though. I won't give myself any more than that. That's because you got to keep moving in business. You don't want to get too comfortable or too complacent, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. You get too comfortable there and you're patting yourself on the back, and next thing you know, you forget to keep growing and pushing forward. And I was kind of like you, where I never did any sort of HVAC. I never did any small refrigeration at all. I was only an industrial guy. I was working on the big ammonia plants with you guys,
I
and I
remember.
went from kind of the big leagues down to the little tiny stuff. And I had a bunch of oh shit moments where I was just like, what the fuck is this thing? How am I going to figure? But I figured it out, and everything's cruising along now. But what were one of your first oh shit moments in the trade that you can remember?
I mean, I've had a whole bunch of them, man. One of those moments. Okay, phosgene gas. I'm in. I'm trying to put a compressor, change out a compressor, and I overheated a couple of the lines, and then the oil was right there behind it, and it had some refrigerant in it. And so I'll never forget what that smells like.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments. And hydrous ammonia, I had to pull a guy out of an engine room that he ended up losing his eyes, and that was one of those moments, those safety moments. It's like I bring this up all the time, and the guy took a shot, very professional, knew what he was doing. He worked for. They were the contractor that was doing the build out on the building. Must have came in lower than they could have on the refrigeration. So I was there doing that, and yeah, it was an accident that happened with him. I've always respected ammonia. I went to a leak one time with my grandfather. He went in with a rag and water in the rag over his mouth and his nose.
Shit.
Yeah, he went in and shut it off like that. And so this was at a little meat packaging plant that was in our hometown. And I think I was staying the night at my grandparents, and I ended up going with him on the call. And yeah, he wasn't very happy about whoever caused the leak, because it puts his life in danger, and then
Yeah.
he has to go in and do that for the guy. So yeah, it was. So I've always respected ammonia. When I got to it, I personally didn't have any of those. I mean, I've had some sweating and some rashes happen because you're working around it when you're sweating and doing startups. Man, you're tying in things that when they're live still, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And
Oh yeah.
so I got really good at making sure that everybody else was safe, and by doing whatever it took to stay away from those oh shit moments. Oh,
That's
here's a good
good.
one.
Yeah. You.
Everybody goes through that moment that you're like this. You're ready to tap out, can't figure it out. You've been tracing stuff for all day, and you're almost not even. You're not even charged. Matter of fact, well, I'm not going to say almost. You're not charging for your time because you feel stupid that you're even still there, and you're not calling the office
Yeah.
because you're still there, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I went through one of those moments. I was ready to tap out, and the guy tells me, "Dude, go to lunch. Go to lunch. Go eat something. You've been there how long? How many hours? Can't think straight. Go eat something and come back and see what happens." Sure enough, I went and ate something, came back, and I was able to find that somebody had wired something to a light switch, and that was a problem.
And then your light bulb went off
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good one. Good one. That was good.
in your head.
Yeah.
If you weren't doing refrigeration today, what do you think you'd be doing if it wasn't for refrigeration as a trade?
Music appreciation.
Music appreciation, like a teacher, like
No.
a music appreciation
Yeah,
teacher.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know anything else but what we're doing here. So if I wasn't doing this, I've never even actually thought about it. I've never even thought about doing something different, even for retirement or something like that. I haven't thought about anything else. It would have to be something giving back to their trade, or getting in front of people that just were maybe knuckleheads growing up, and do have a good ending to it, and then get out there and get in front of many people as I can and talk about things.
That'd be good stuff. How do you explain a refrigeration technician to somebody who's outside the trade who doesn't know anything about it? How would you explain a technician to
I've talked a lot
somebody?
about this actually, and I've even talked to guys that work at Airbus on the airplanes. And those guys, there's a big respect for refrigeration techs out there in the world that people don't understand. I had a lawyer that lived not too far from me, and he would drive by every day, and we'd be going putting our dirt bikes in the truck and taking a kid out to wherever we're going to go. The guy's like, "What do you do for a living?" I tried to explain it to him, and he's like, "So what? You're a tech?" And I said, "Yeah, a tech." And he goes, "So you work on AC?" And it's like the guy just had over my house and said, "Kind of, but not really." I said, "These are big ones, bigger than my car, bigger. I can't get underneath them. I can walk underneath them instead of crawling and getting all dirty and everything." And I said, "I
Yeah.
targeted that stuff on purpose. I'm a big kid growing up, and I'm still a big guy." And
Yeah.
so I didn't really want to wedge myself in underneath stuff too much. I did that once or twice. I was like, "That's enough of that." So I just explained it to him like this: you're basically an electrician, a plumber. You're everything that you might get your hands on, and you're very good at it. Because if people discredit guys a lot of times, thinking like, if I go to do a startup and I go to the electrical room, the guys are like, "Hey, get out of here." Basically, they don't think you know what you're doing. What they don't realize is I'm fixing their stuff every single day of the week. Everything they're doing, I'm fixing all of that stuff. When they're not there after the startup and things.
Yeah.
And so the drains on evaporator coils, you're all of these things in that trade. And not on top of that, you're always analyzing things. So now your family has to deal with you being an over analytical person because you trend things for a living. You're looking to find things that other people can't find. That's how you win the jobs. That's how you stay on site, and they love you. I think there's some of the smartest people out there, and I'm probably it's probably because I'm into it too, and I don't maybe I'm delusional, but the guys are a great bunch of guys that I've met over the years. I mean, there's just thousands of them I met at different times, being part of everything.
Yeah, it's a tight knit group for sure. I love being in the trade and part of the trade. I talked about on the last podcast a little bit where it's like if you talk to somebody who's a refrigeration person, you're already connected with them, especially the industrial guys. You've been in the trenches and your life's literally on the line when you're out there on those ammonia plants and you're around all the big power panels and stuff like that. And at a moment's notice, something can go wrong. And next thing you know, you're not going home. And it may or may not even have anything to do with what you've done. It could just be your unlucky day.
Yeah, there's a definite level of danger every single day. I don't care what it is. I mean, somebody flips on a VFD or something and they don't know what they're doing on it. They just try to. They're not really secure with it, but they go ahead and do it because they think that they're going to look stupid in front of their peers if they don't do it. And let's say you're in there working on a fan motor, something like that. I had this happen, is why I'm saying this, and it kicks on just as I lean up out of it. It kicks on, and I definitely probably wouldn't be here today if that thing would have kicked on while I was in there. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of close calls that happen out there, and you learn from all that. The safeties are just so important to do what they say because they're there for a reason. All the arc flash stuff and all that lockout, tag out, and everything. It's very important, and it's not just the owner trying to save his butt on the workers' comp side of things. And it's to make sure you get home with all your limbs every day. Because I mean, if you're not going to be able to work for your family, what are you going to do from home?
Crazy when you see a guy that's out there just kind of winging it. I mean, I always was a firm believer in the safety stuff and I always embraced it. And I mean, I think everybody kind of tends to use safety stuff as like cafeteria style. Well, I like this and this helps and that helps. But I've always been lean more towards the safety side. And when stuff gets implemented or added, it's pretty much for your benefit. And it's because somebody got hurt real bad or died, God forbid. But yeah, somebody
Yeah,
didn't make it home to their kids or their family. And that's why all that stuff's out there doing what it's doing.
which we've been through firsthand. We know people. You know what I mean? Where that's
Yeah.
what happened to.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is definitely a part of the trade, and it can happen, and it can happen quick. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely mad respect for those guys that do it every day still. What mistakes taught you a lesson that you'll never forget? Do you have anything that just stands out in your head where you're just like, "Fuck, I'll never do that again," or something that just really taught you a lesson?
I have a bunch of those too. So, and then hydrous ammonia, I've had a couple of situations where I cowboyed it basically to get into some filters or something like that. And,
Yep,
you get a good whiff of that and it takes your breath away to say the least. And,
yep.
you know that you walk away from that, your nostrils are definitely clear, but
I've been there.
yeah, but you're just like, okay, well, I don't want to take that chance again. And it's mainly if there's somebody else around. And it's not like a chance, well, I don't mind going down, but I don't want these guys to go down. It's not like that. It's just I don't want to put somebody else through some stuff that might be, caused by me.
Yeah.
I've had to have a compressor where we had to keep it at 1 to 2 psi, and I'm sitting there instead of I set the alarms out and I had to keep it running. Otherwise, it was going to be a big mess going on. And what had happened was the leak was caused by somebody wrenching on a nipple that was on one of the fittings, and it split.
Uh-huh.
And the compressor was running at the time with ammonia.
Oh
So
shit.
yeah, so got a finger over that nipple that split, and trying to keep that compressor on because it's trying to alarm out. And it was just it was interesting having to call a person from the phone saying, "Hey, could you come down? I need another set of hands."
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those deals right there. And if I would have shut the compressor off, the pressure would have came up, engine room, alarms, everything would have, it would have all went down.
Yeah, it would have been a big problem. Would
Oh
have
yeah,
been like the kid with his finger in the dam, like
yeah, totally.
trying to poke that shit like
There
that.
was only one hole in the dam.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
What do you think that newer techs struggle with most these days?
Well, I think there's a couple things going on with the guys coming in right now. One is they want a clear path of how is this going to go? How am I going to get from here to an enjoyable place in my life or provide or whatever? It's because I have barbecues here for the schools, and we invite them over to come over for the day, and then we give them tours and have talk with them and feed them. And so I hired a couple of them from the trade school nearby, and I've spent a lot of time with them, picking their brain, trying to figure out like where they're at, what's going on. A lot of them have heard from family members, hey, the trade's good to me. They see maybe what they're driving or how they get to go out and do different things. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might as well go try that out. Then they get into it and they're like, I don't know if I really want to crawl around up in these attics and stuff like that. They're not so sure about some of it. And there's so many different angles in the trade and niches that there are in there. But then you have to come and you have to be technical. You not just technical, not just like reading the books and passing the test. I didn't get really comfortable in the trade until I don't know what year it was, but when I finally got to the job site and I don't have this knot in my stomach because I'm not really sure what's going to go on there, and you're just kind of trying to pencil whip things, hoping that maybe the next guy will get it or something like that, or just get in and out of there. And that's just the
Yeah.
honest truth. Everybody goes through that, and
Oh yeah.
then you become a good tech. What you went through that too?
Oh, yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's pretty common. You're shitting your pants for a little while. I mean, fake it till you make it's fun and games. So you'll show up to a 100,000 square foot refrigerated warehouse in the middle of the night by
yeah,
yourself with the lights off and the plants down,
yeah.
and you're trying to get a hold of somebody on the phone, and you got to find a fucking blown fuse on a control panel that you didn't even know existed on a mezzanine, and you're like, "What the fuck is a mezzanine?" So yeah, it was a it's a crazy situation. You're just sitting there shitting your pants trying to figure out what's going on here. And it takes a long time to be confident. And then it seems like right when you are confident, the trade throws you a curveball and something changes. And then you got to do it this way. But I've actually learned to grow and embrace that. And I think that what you're saying is that the young guys are having a hard time figuring that part out. But hell, it's hard. I mean, what do you mean? I got to go to school and then I got to still bust my knuckles and get dirty sometimes and do all this bullshit. But yeah, that is the trade, and that
And
is
school's
what you
not
got
where
to
you're
do.
gonna learn. School's not where you're gonna learn. You're gonna get into their trade through school. That's all.
That's right.
You're gonna get a basic, not even a working knowledge at that. You need the working knowledge. And the trade school is gonna be you'd have to be a really sharp and hit the ground running type of person to get out of trade school and be anything anytime soon. I work a lot with the unions and the different companies, and that apprenticeship time frame, that is the right time frame. Even if you're not going in the union, but that's a good time frame to where a guy that's been working on cars or something when he's a kid. Maybe a guy wants to wrench on things, but his dad didn't do it, or somebody, he didn't have an opportunity. So that guy right there, he comes into the trade, goes through school. It lets him know that there's some dangers out there, and it gets some tests, gets a general, knowledge of stuff. But then the work starts, and that's what I mean. Like, there's some of the guys that get here and they have to understand something. I want you to come learning. I'm saying is, if you want to be good and you want to move up fast, and believe me, we notice it. The guys up our management and everything, we know, we've been out there, we can tell where they're at, and they're not
Yep.
bullshitting us on their skill set. And so it's
Yep.
just a matter, they're setting themselves up for one of those long days when you're trying to hide out, or one of those long days when you get paid and you're fulfilled and you're like, hell yeah, I killed it today. Those are the difference
Yeah.
between the two guys. One guy comes learning, the other guy just does minimal, basic, bare minimum, and those ones just struggle, I think.
Yeah, that's how I did it. I went to a junior college here in Riverside, and I was only in school for 2 semesters. I had a phenomenal instructor over there. The professor over there was amazing, and I really got the gist of it. But I got very lucky because I knew a guy who was probably the same guy you met in California, but he helped me get into the trade as a service technician at an industrial level. And after 2 semesters of school, it's not a lot of time to figure out what the hell you're doing. So I definitely had to hit the ground running, and I had to learn a lot of shit on the fly when I was just out there banging bars with the big boys, literally. And that mentorship style where he just kind of let me get out there and make my mistakes without hurting myself
Yeah.
really taught me a lot and helped me out. So it was a great thing, and I'm still just blessed to this day that my timeline happened to stumble across those paths. You know?
Yeah, yeah, and what you're talking about was a very special situation. That company had more talent and great guys working at that company to where once a person got there, if they were green, and there was a time whenever that company utilized that and did really well off of that, was the fact that they had such big jobs all the time. And it wasn't like PM work where you're just pencil whipping stuff. It was like real hardcore work, and we'd rebuild 200-ton towers and stuff like that. We'd tear the cones out of them and put new ones in an afternoon. You know what I mean? After prepping and
Yeah.
everything. But we have guys that are capable of doing that, and they're not talking and complaining about shit. They're in there and they're doing the
Right.
work and going to lunch. There's a camaraderie there that's killer. And then those guys, they spawn a whole bunch of other guys that ended up being a bunch of business owners. And I mean, it's an
Yeah.
amazing group of people when you get that much talent together.
It's been a pretty incredible ride for sure to see that. And when I was younger, I had the camaraderie and the brotherhood. Really, I mean, it was like family. You could call these guys in the middle of the night at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they would be there to answer the phone and actually help you on your way, rather than try to ask you dumb questions and see if you knew the answer. It wasn't like a Q&A. It was like a, hey, bro, let me help you find this problem and actually get on about your day. And I owe my whole career to that camaraderie and that brotherhood that I found way back then. And it was definitely a special vibe for sure. Pretty
Yeah.
cool group of people. Speaking of that, what was the craziest, weirdest, or worst call you've ever gotten at 2 a.m.?
Anything at 2 a.m. is pretty much going to be a shitty one, anyways. But yeah, so I've gotten some calls out where a meat packaging plant, they let it go for a while thinking that they were going to get their guy to get it fixed. And it didn't end up getting that way. And I walked in there and literally the meat was thawing out to the point where it was blood all over the floor dripping. And
Oh shit.
so it was, yeah, it started, it's to the point, I think it's 46 degrees is where the USDA will shut the gates that are on almost inside of every meat packaging facility. And so if it sets there, then it's got to be in quarantine and all that kind of stuff. So these guys were all over me about not having all that. That was a lot of money in meat that was in there. It was a pretty good size area. I didn't even think I ate meat after that for a while because I saw yeah, it was just, it's pretty interesting stuff that goes into some of these different
Yeah.
deals, let's just call it that. But I did work on a blood chiller one time where they slaughter cows. I got a call out to that. And that was the first of one of those. I'd never worked on one of those before. And it was a very major brand that's out there that's in every store that's a top
Okay.
of these things, these steaks. And I go out there in the middle of nowhere, and this place is massive. And I go to this blood chiller, and the guys are killing the cows not far from me. And I'm like, what? The kind of guy that it takes to slaughter the cow, to kill the cows, is a certain individual, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the blood that comes off of that floor, they end up chilling it and turning it into something else, another product that they sell.
Oh, okay. So they capture it and chill it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I went to a tire chiller one time whenever I first started. There was a machine that was chilling, was somewhere in LA, and they sent me out there, and it was at a tire shop. And I'm like, what the hell? They had this grinder that grinds up tire, like to recycle them or some shit, and the machine had a chiller on it. But I was like, I thought I was going to be a refrigeration guy. So you never know what the hell kind of plants you're going to come across. That's for sure.
Yes, I know that's a good example. I mean, I went out to a landfill. They're pulling methane gas off of the bottom of the landfill and turning it into renewable fuel, and or that they could reuse. So I worked on a project out there. I've gotten some pretty cool different experiences and some stuff that they're trying on things, and they're using their free heat to heat up some stuff. They were able to get a certain mixture of like oil and glycol that they were able to get it to where the freezing point of it was super low. They were testing some of that stuff at a different plant. Since we've had chiller service, the accounts that we get, I mean, we were just not long ago, we were at the main vault for pulling gas out. Talk about
Oh,
an
wow.
talk about an intense underground thing that was going on, right? And during this time, it's over now, so I'm pretty sure I could talk about it. But yeah, they had plates and stuff that they had to lift up in order to get the pieces of the old chiller out and then get the new one back in there that were, all the way to ground level. It might be on SoFi Stadium, might be out there at the headquarters pulling gas for them, might be on a boat somewhere in Coronado, pulling gas out. So it's all kinds of different jobs and prisons and different things that the guys go out to all the time.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Yeah, I still to this day impressed by how multifaceted and broad the trade actually is. I used to work at a place in Ontario, and the prisoners would come in there, and it was like a fire camp, but they had their warehouse in there for all the guys that were doing the fire camp. So you'd be in there working on this refrigeration system, a walk-in cooler and a walk-in freezer over there, and these dudes would be coming in their jumpsuits and shit, and you're just like, okay, hey, what's up, guys? They were all cool dudes. They were all just out there trying to do their time and get on with their day. But you don't think about that. You don't think about all the different areas that refrigeration can send you when you start doing this. And when people hear the word refrigeration, they always go to their refrigerator in their kitchen is the first thing everyone thinks. And I'm like, that's not exactly what we're talking about here, folks.
I think I heard it best when Ken, do you reach into it, do you walk into it, or do you drive into it?
Yeah, yeah. Can
Those
you
are the
can
levels.
are forklifts driving through the thing, or yeah, or are you just barely putting your food into it like this? Yeah, for sure. That's incredible. Tell us a little bit about what you guys got going on right now as far as your business. What do you see on our horizon? What's going on with your businesses overall?
So business right now, kind of two hats almost really that I wear literally, but it's going to be the Amelina and the chiller hat. Chiller hat,
Mm-hmm.
Amelina one's around here somewhere, but so chiller, we're very involved with Earth, which is it's a ERC, it's an NSF ERC, which that's an environmental, all of the latest and greatest minds that are out there. We work with 8 different colleges. I think there's actually 10 colleges now, and some of those are like
Wow.
Kansas University, Lehigh. Yeah, these are engineering departments that these kids are like double masters and all kinds of. These are just phenomenal people that are working out there. You got to be at Notre Dame in 1 or 2 weeks from now, doing a meeting there face to face. I'm co-chair of the National Science Foundation Industrial Advisory Board. So I'm on that board there, and so it gives me an in to that. I'm a founding member of Earth ERC, which you can look up. It's just so much to talk about with that. It's a fascinating situation to even be part of. And the guy that heads it up, his name's Mark Shiflett, and his name's on the patent of like say 404 A. He was at DuPont
Wow.
years, and then he goes over there, and he's putting together a program to take care of issues that are going on out there and real problems with industrial refrigeration or all refrigeration, any gases really. It's focused on gases, and it also has, right from they can put additives into things to track them and see what's going on. Refrigerants are the number three illegal substance imported right now next to drugs, and so it's
Wow.
very very lucrative for people. It's a big deal. A lot of they're trying to figure out how to get this pulled back in. And let's be honest, if the techs would do their jobs and keep the gas in and not top off every year, which I think is bullshit, there's one of the things I don't like.
There you
So
go.
that whole top off thing is just it's ridiculous to even think that. It's stupid. You go hand your customer for £1,000, $30,000 bill. That's just crazy. Yeah, it might sound
Mhm.
good on a business sense or something like that, but you should be embarrassed of yourself to be even doing that once a year to your customer. So anyways, I can get off on a little rant on that. But so yeah, I'm very in with Earth. There's the latest technology that's coming out of there. It's a technology hub. NSF gave the funding about this past 2 years. So there's a big grant right there that everybody's utilizing, and you got all of the gods of the refrigeration industry are in the room with me when we're talking about what we're going to be doing for change, climate change, and everything. And they're looking at the net zero stuff. All the rules come out of this bunch of people right here.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah, and then on the other side with Amelina, we have a seat at the Standards and Technical Committee with AHRI. So being an AHRI certified lab, there's only six of them on the planet. There's
Wow.
everybody has to send their stuff into one of those six to get okay. Like if they're importing the gas, it has to hit certain markers, and so we hold our head up here, knowing for a fact you're never going to find any of our gas that's subpar. Our gas is always moving. Matter of fact, I put a deal on the whole thing where we have to have a certain level above and beyond what it needs to actually be, because a lot of people will blend low purity gases with higher purity gases to try to hit that 99.5% mark of purity. And we don't even ride that line. We don't want any questions whatsoever. Ours is all
I
certified,
love that.
reclaimed. Yeah, we got special stickers on the boxes that say, hey, we're saying this is ours right here. So we test everything. We test everything from manufacturers right from them, and we test everything to get an idea of what's going on out there in the world.
That's incredible. So, where can folks find you online? Let's say a contractor wants to use you for oil analysis or refrigerant analysis. Can they just reach out to you? And where can they reach out to you to do those things?
Yeah. So they could call us. Though, for one, they could call here and get it. They could go online or call us. And the online part of it's going to be at chiller services refrigerants.com with an S on the
Okay.
and that's going to be for any of your recovery needs, any of your gas needs, any questions you have about what's going on. We do lunch and learns. We'll go out to a contractor's office, and he'll get all of his techs together. It might be a service day or something like that. And we'll do a lunch and learn. I'll bring Comores. I'll bring a scientist, and we'll do a nice presentation. It's not going to be salesy. It's going to be all informational. Typically, our question and answer goes longer than the actual presentation that we do, because there's such a gray area in a lot of things, right? So I bring
Right.
Comores with me. He answers all the latest stuff that's coming from the manufacturer. And I then we couple that with the rest of our guys with a lot of great information. Melina, we want to do any analysis, the oil and refrigerant analysis. We don't just do oil analysis. I built everything like a tech, like how I would have wanted it out in the field. I debunked a few things over there on the Amelina side, and these are the kind of questions you could call and put us to the test, or send us stuff and say, hey, could you test this out for me? I wanted to know about this. Plastic bottles, how much moisture comes through those? How good are those seals on there? Because I had them open up in the truck. We've all had to have a burp on them on the side of the truck till we can close them because they're pressurized. So we pulled
Yep.
in all of our competition bottles, had them do a 2-month study. 300 parts per million in 24 hours goes right through the side of the plastic bottles, right? So we do all
Wow.
glass bottles. We do a special cap that's on there that we tested that doesn't leak. It's got special seal on the inside. Our reports are just phenomenal. They help you sell your PM work and your oil changes and things like that, because it gives you so much great information. And the machines that we have are just over the top, really great equipment. And
Wow. That's great.
the refrigerant analysis side, hands down, nobody's got it going on there.
What's your website for Amelina's stuff? If guys want to reach out, is there a website?
AmelinaTechnologies.com.
Okay, great. Yeah, I see the ads all the time in the Rita. That's what prompted me to get a hold of you today and set this thing up finally. I see the ads in the Rita books and everything like that. So I'm always like, hey, that's my bro right there. So
And that's how I'm going to do
yeah,
this. You open it up, first page, it's right there. That's cool.
that's right.
Good
I
stuff.
see you guys out there. No, it's very cool. It's like, hey, man, I used to work with that guy. We've worked together for years, and he's a cool dude. But
That guy.
it's fun to see. Yeah, that's right. No, we've had a good time together for sure through the years. The work that you guys do with Amelina Technologies. I mean, we used to talk to customers about it all the time as technicians. Hey, we don't have to replace your oil every 6 months. We can test it and find out if it's actually due for a replacement, and that saves the customer a lot of money, and it makes the contractors look really good. So it's pretty cool. I've always been interested in it.
I will get it to where it's like layers of onion, where we peel it back, And we're able to tell you like if it's stainless steel, if what metallics are in there and where they're coming from. So you don't have to replace the entire thing. Like chillers, $150,000 chiller. If they know it's the rotors, they can get after the rotors. They don't have to go, I want to make you smarter. I want to make it to where that's what I mean about that technical thing. Don't just give them the BS and change some parts or whatever. Take things apart, cut things apart, figure out what's going on inside of those. As a technician, you shouldn't be working on stuff if you haven't cut it apart. Really. I mean, there's a mystery that goes on with even compressors. It's like take those fuckers apart, see what's going on in there.
Yeah, I just chopped up an EXV about 2 weeks ago because I replaced a little tiny EXV on a Heatcraft evaporator, and I was sitting there looking at the failed one, and I'm like, all right, grab my bandsaw and chop that thing open and started pulling
Yeah,
stuff apart, and I'm like, okay, because what's on those EXVs, what you and I would typically call in the old days a solenoid,
yeah,
is called a stator now, and the stator spins the motor that's inside the EXV, and
yeah,
I knew this, and I had someone explain it to me, but I wanted to see it.
yeah.
Chopped it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
for
things are
sure.
very efficient too. I'm changing all my machines here out from the old TXVs, so that way I can have
Yeah.
traffic control.
Yeah, they're very efficient and they work good when they're working good.
I have a gentleman for me that he used to work at a data center AC manufacturer, and he was the vice president over there. He works for me now, and he tells me that he took it for granted how important the gas is to the whole deal. The gas is just like the blood going through your body, right? That
Just like
gas
your
is
blood.
clean. It's not. It's got a problem. The heart doesn't beat right. Whatever. And there's this. It's I didn't really take into consideration just how important the gas was until I owned this also. And then I'm just
Right.
like, it's a no brainer, and we wholesale to all contractors. Very, very few special situation for end users. We're not competition with our contractors. We only quote things out to emails and things like that. So that way the contractors don't have to worry about some of their customers saying that, hey, this is Joe Blow from their contractor, company, bullshitting us basically to try to find out what the prices really are, right? So we
Right.
said
Right.
we definitely it's a tricky thing that we do to be able to cater to the contractors. But if we got the contractors, we get everybody, right? So we don't
Yeah.
need to sell to the end users. Let everybody make some money. Stay in our lane. You know what I mean? And then protect the guys and keep the prices as low as possible. We do so much due diligence on pricing. It's pretty much impossible to find anybody that's the price is going to be better. And if they are, just send me over a copy of that quote, and we're going to beat that price.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. I remember working with the company we used to work for, and one time some stuff got shipped to a customer, and the pricing was still on the on the list, and the customer saw that, and they were like, "What the?" So from then on, the seller couldn't put the pricing on any of the paperwork. So that
That's how
was
I
pretty
just did too.
funny.
Yeah, I went through something like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was.
it's pretty. It doesn't end very well whenever people see how much you're billing them versus how much you paid for something. But really, if you talk about a restaurant, they don't buy an egg for $1.50 and sell it to you for $1.50. They buy an egg for 60 cents and sell it to you for $1.50. But people forget that it's a
You
business and
get the
there's a
same
markup.
wholesale prices they do, so they shouldn't get the wholesale prices that you do. You know what I mean? Because
Right,
you're
right,
loyal to somebody wherever you buy your products, and then
exactly.
hopefully you get that back in some way.
Exactly. That's definitely the way it works. So, anyway, Steve, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We appreciate you. Kings of Cold podcast. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, and we're growing to TikTok and other platforms as soon as possible. So, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Steve Harrill, for sharing your time with us today and your knowledge. And we look forward to doing more podcasts with you and the science folks at your work and learning more about those intricacies of the changes in the trade.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thank you, brother. Have a great day.